as of late, I'm becoming more of a booktuber. It's okay. The Kickstarter's over. No more shameless plugs. That is until it's fully released on Amazon. But as you know, I enjoy reading quite a bit. I've already made a video about reading preferences and book snobbery, but today I thought I would share with you guys what I have read this year thus far. This year thus far. Say that 5 times fast. This year thus far. 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 Books number 1 and 2. They come as a set. This is the Six of Crows duology, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. Aside from being incredibly aesthetically pleasing with the black and the red pages, this is a really good series. I mentioned previously, though, that it took me forever to get into Six of Crows. Reasons for that. I'm still not 100% certain about the prologue in this book. What? It was never explained. We never went back to Juiced, or however you say his name, Juiced. I get that it was probably setting up the whole experimenting on them thing, but it wasn't explained. Once I finally got over my reading slump of this book, it made it really easy to get through. It's very medieval, fantastical Ocean's 11. The characters are really diverse and really well formed. I have to say my top characters, Nina was probably my absolute favorite, but Jesper and Wylan were very close second. I'm gonna give this duology 4 out of 5 because it was really good, but I'm still confused about the prologue in Six of Crows. Someone explain me the prologue. Book number 3. This is Shrill by Lindy West. This was actually given to me by my sister to read, and I'm really glad she did. This might be my new favorite book of all time. If you are a large woman who suffers from self-esteem issues, I highly recommend reading this book. If you are not a large woman with self-esteem issues, I encourage you to read it as well. It's targeted more towards large women with self-esteem issues, but it is a good read for everyone. She's extremely honest about a lot of taboo topics. It's a really quick read. You really can get through it in one sitting. It took me a couple days just because I had other stuff going on, but if I had really tried, could have done it in one. 5 out of 5 for Shrill. It is my favorite book, at least of this year, if not of all time. Book number 4. I've had this book for a while and I finally just got to read it. I have read all of the Divergent trilogy, but this was a really interesting take on the story from 4's perspective. If you don't know, 4 is the love interest / badass guy in the Divergent trilogy, played by Theo James in the movie. I enjoyed this a lot. We really got to see a little bit more of 4's backstory. We got to see more about the intricacies of how the society in Divergent works. When you read Divergent, there's a lot that seems left out, and this seemed a good way to fill in the blanks. I kind of wish there was more to it because it doesn't really give you insight into Insurgent and Allegiant, which is where we see a pretty good character shift with 4's character anyway, and I would have liked to see inside his mind during all the drama there. I'm giving 4 3 out of 5. Sorry, not 4. I wanted a bit more from the story. It was very good. It helped fill in a lot of the gaps, but I need more. Book number 5, The Kill Order. This is the prequel to James Dashner's Maze Runner series, which I've read all 3 of those books already. But I wanted to read this prequel. There was a lot of mixed reviews for the book, and I kind of understand why now. I get kind of a feeling that James Dashner does not like to write women. I mean, the Maze Runner series alone was pretty boy-centric. Granted, Therese is a very complicated character, but with this book we get a whole bunch of new characters, but it very quickly centers on the 2 boys, and they very quickly get separated from the girls. And honestly, I think the 3 girls in this story might have been slightly more interesting to read about. Main character Mark is interesting alone. I liked the back and forth between the present day and the past of how the world essentially ended for the Maze Runner series to begin. The other main character, Alec, who's Mr. Commando, gruff older man, was okay, but kind of tropey. I think it would have been nice to actually just go between the narratives of Mark and Alec and of the girls. Some of the motivations didn't quite make sense to me, but I guess with everyone going crazy from the flare anyway, that makes sense to not make sense. I'm giving this one a 2.5 out of 5. It was an interesting read, but it just really irked me how the treatment of the women happened in this book and how James Dashner treats most of the women in his writing. Book number 6, The Epic Adventures of Lydia Bennet. I'm a huge fan of the Lizzie Bennet Diaries on YouTube. I don't know who isn't, because it's a really great series. Immediately when Secret Diary of Lizzie Bennet came out, I immediately bought it and read it and loved it. I've been waiting forever to get my hands on this book, and I finally did. Lydia and I share a few commonalities in very different ways. She's the youngest of 3 girls. She does have some self-esteem and confidence issues, and not living up to being as great as your 2 perfect elder sisters. I relate a lot with Lydia in that way, although we do show it differently. She's much more of a party girl. I'm a stay in my room with my dogs type of girl. I really like seeing this. This was a continuation after all the events in Lizzie Bennet Diaries, and it was really good to see her journey, and even though it wasn't totally resolved in the end, that's life. life is never totally resolved until you're dead. And even then it's not sometimes. It resonated with me a lot, and that's why I really enjoyed reading this book and reading Lydia's story. Plus look how cute Mary-Kate Wiles is on the cover. I am giving this 4.5 out of 5 just because I need a sequel. And the final book I've read thus far, book number 7, The Sacrifice of Sunshine Girl. Another YouTube series turned book trilogy thing. I watched The Haunting of Sunshine Girl on YouTube. I haven't watched it in a while, but the storyline on YouTube got very confusing and it made me a little annoyed, so I kind of stopped watching for a while. I'll probably go back to watching it. This book series goes off of the earlier Sunshine videos, less so of what's happening nowadays, but it's still the most interesting part of the YouTube series, I think. This is the 3rd book in the series. I've already read the other 2, but this one, it just came out not long ago. Yeah, this year. It came out this year, so it's fairly new. I like that this gives us a lot more plot than the YouTube series does, because the YouTube series is much more home video, quick film on the iPhone, and you're kind of lost as to the order. And plus on the side she does other like random video Monday videos and things that don't correlate with the story. So that's why it got very confusing to watch as a viewer. This makes it a much more streamlined plot. I enjoyed the conclusion of it. I liked where the epilogue leaves it, because this is the special Target copy, which has extra stuff that make a little bit more satisfying for the YouTube fan. Very good book. It gave me a lot more satisfaction about the Sunshine and Nolan relationship that was very confusing on YouTube. We got to see a little bit more relationships that Sunshine doesn't have on her channel with her best friend. It leads up to a lot of other characters that are like, oh, this makes more sense. Oh, I like this. Oh, I can see into their mind a little bit more and see what the heck they were thinking. Very good, nice solid ending. Very nice trilogy. Doesn't need to go on anymore. I'm gonna give this one 3.5 out of 5. It was very nice. I enjoyed it. Very quick read. But it wasn't like the best book I've ever read, but it's very fun. Definitely a recommendation. And those are all the books I've read in the first half of 2017. What have you read thus far this year? Thus far this year, thus far this year, thus far this year, thus far this year, thus far this year. Okay. Put them in the comments below or on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, and you can also friend me on Goodreads. See you next time, beauties. Bye! This year thus far, this year thus far, this year thus far, this year thus far, this year thus far.